brain power. Let the bass kick. Oh, Okay, I'm done.
All right, there we go. There's
That's
your
a yikes for
introduction.
That's my rendition of brain power.
Where were we?
There's your introduction. Welcome to the Elitist Gaming Podcast. This is our third episode out. Today,
This is a train wreck of everything.
Today we'll be talking about a genre that I am not too familiar with myself, but it's very popular amongst the esports community.
And like this intro, it's a cancer upon the humankind.
Oh, for God's sake.
That's not wrong.
It's not wrong. But today we'll be talking about the MOBA scene and why it's so popular, what makes these games so much fun and appealing to its wide audience. Today, I have three lovely guests. My first one, he is brand new to the show. He brings good luck everywhere he goes to. I'm joined by Mr. Crow.
I forgot you had these bullshit intros.
This is like WWE.
Also, Nick, you never actually said his name.
I did say Crow.
Yeah, he said it.
I
He never
didn't
said hi.
Hi,
There we go.
my name's Crow.
My next two guests are our first returning members. You may remember them from our...
You may
First-
remember me as the hot, sexy one that you only wanted to listen to.
She's also a man of interruptions. I'm joined by both Fluffy and Double Redux.
Oi, mate.
Apparently, I have a twin that Nick made up at some point, but I don't fucking know what he means by that.
I'm still looking for him.
I'm sorry for swearing, by the way, but that's just how I talk. So, next class, don't dock him points for that, please.
Hey, you should have seen the last podcast. I kind of was cussing up a storm a bit there.
Nah. Probably the last podcast was talking about
a higher grade, you idiot. Okay.
talking about Apex
Moving
Legends,
on
and they
to-
brought up Caustic. They probably brought up, World War II.
Moving on to fucking moving
You're
on.
not the host. Anyway.
I wanted to. Fucking you suck. This is another coup. I'm establishing a coup. I'm the host.
He's establishing a coup. Yeah, right. All right. Anyway, gentlemen, I've brought you here because I have very little knowledge of what the hell MOBAs are. The only thing I do know is the major games associated with them: League of Legends, Dota 2, Heroes of the Storm. So I'll let you guys take the reins on this one.
Let me give you a brief introduction to a MOBA. A MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. The genre was established as it was not a
Warcraft
mod.
3. It was
Warcraft
it was a Warcraft 3 mod.
Well, yeah, I guess it was a mod. So Warcraft 3, in that game, you could make custom sort of like game modes and battle maps and stuff. And so that's kind of like where a lot of stuff came from. So like tower defense and stuff. And so at one point, I don't believe Ice Frog was the first guy, but he worked on it at some point. They established this thing called Dota, and I forget what Dota stands for. Something
Defense of the Ancients.
Yeah, Defense of the Ancients, because the Ancients the big thing you kill. Anyway, and that was the first MOBA. It was a mod for World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3, which was originally a RTS, which is like StarCraft. So that's how the series started, and then really the first big MOBA was League of Legends. I'm sure a lot of people know.
Well, no, Dota was like first.
Oh yeah,
then.
well, I mean, first actual standalone game. Dota was just a mod for a while. What is it? Yeah, some of the people who worked on Dota also worked on establishing League of Legends, and then Ice Frog, I believe, he's the guy who's currently working on Dota with Valve, Dota 2. He took over with Dota All Stars and led the production of that. And then Dota finally became its own game with Dota 2. God, what year was that? I don't remember what year that was.
Because I know League of Legends came around in like 2010, so at least be like 2-3 years before
League
that.
of Legends wasn't 2010.
Yeah, it came out like 2010, 2011.
We're in season 8 or 9 right now.
Yeah.
It was earlier than that. Okay, well, League of Legends came out in 2010. Dota 2 came out a little bit after that. I believe it was
Might have
more
been like 2008.
2009.
2009.
October 27th, 2009 was League of Legends release date.
Yeah, and then Dota 2 came out more like, I think it was 2013? I don't remember. It was in beta for a while, and it was like a closed beta, and then an open beta, and then it actually released. So Who knows when the actual date?
I'll be back when I grab my coffee.
It says the initial release date was July 9th, 2013.
Correct.
Yeah. So like 2013. So Dota 2 came along, and those are probably the two biggest in the industry right now, and they're both pretty standard MOBAs with their own mechanics. You can argue about complexity. For example, League of Legends, all the heroes have active abilities and then one passive ability. But in Dota 2, so like there's 4 abilities in League of Legends. You have 4 abilities, 3 regular and then an ultimate, and then you have a passive on each hero. And then in Dota 2, you just have 4 abilities, and they can be either active or passive, including your ultimate. Your ultimate can be a passive. So that's like a big difference there. And then denying is a big difference. We'll get into all that stuff, but basically, we haven't even mentioned the most important part. MOBAs are 5v5 typically. There are variations from this, but they're typically 5 players against 5 other players. And there are 3 lanes. There are 3 lanes that you must fight down. Waves of creeps, they're generally called. Depends on
Minions or creeps, yeah.
Yeah, minions, creeps, or whatever. They automatically go down the lane and fight each other. And then there's a series of towers down the lanes, and then a series of, they get stronger as you get closer to the core, depending on the game. Dota's an ancient, what's it called in League of Legends?
So as someone who barely plays these games, so basically there's 2 bases you spawn at, and the whole goal is just to defeat the enemy base.
Yeah, so
like
I can
structure.
I can talk about League of Legends a little bit. So the layout of the team, like Double said, is 5v5. For League of Legends, you have 1 person in the top lane, 1 person in the mid lane, 2 people in the bottom lane, and then you have a 5th person that roams around in the jungle, kind of interacts with each of the lanes. And when the game first starts, everyone just goes to their own lanes. Jungler goes to the jungle, and everyone farms a bit because you just have to try and get gold for items. Then as the game goes into mid game or late game, the teams start to maneuver around the whole map as a team to try and get turrets and objectives, and then eventually force their way into the enemy base.
So how long is a typical game? Because I haven't played League of Legends in like 8 years.
Usually for League of Legends, it's usually between like average game time is usually like 30 to 45 minutes. There are like some games. I remember there was one LCS game that was like an hour and 30 minutes.
So there's no really cap on the game length because there's no timer. It's just based on who the enemy base first. And so there's competitive games that last for well over an hour. Yeah, and there's some games where you can surrender at 15 or 20 minutes and the game's just over then.
Yeah, I believe that game was Season 4 or Season 5, don't remember. It was between Complexity and Team Curse.
There was an EU game that was even longer, I think.
Really?
Like Season 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was Complexity versus Curse, and the game just lasted so long. It was like 90-minute the dream game, and it's just like it was beyond late game.
Dota 2. The longest game in Dota 2 was like 3 hours. I think it was.
What?
Yeah, they go pretty. Like, it's not unusual for a game to be an hour long in Dota. At least when I played. It really depends on the patch, because IceFrog has, at least back when I played, I think he's changed it recently, but he has the way he does like patches, which is to like change hero stats and stuff. He does a sort of flip the table method, and where he's like, imagine like, so the meta is generally like, what's the best thing for you to do to win? That's clearly getting established. Just you setting up all the nice tech pieces. IceFrog comes along, he flips the table over and tells you to pick it back up. That's how he does patches. So, depending on which patch you're playing on, games really changed on their average length. There was one patch in which the average was like 20 minutes because it was a super aggressive like meta that developed from the patch. And then there's others that generally at least take an hour. It's usually like 40 minutes, and then the other teams gives up. On like competitive games, they would on average go for at least an hour. It's not unusual to see a game over an hour, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing in League where the average game time changes patch to patch. Usually like the patch cycles in League of Legends are kind of months at a time, unless they have one huge patch.
Yeah, it's usually every 2 weeks for League of Legends.
Yeah. So every 2 weeks is a patch, but then like the larger trend, they try and like make one big patch at the beginning of the season. That's kind of like for preseason. and that's when all the big changes happen, and then smaller changes throughout the season.
So
and then there's like one like mid-season update. And
Yeah,
then
yeah. There's also the mid-season.
all right, so you talk about seasons. So it seems like there's like is it like established like Overwatch? Like there's seasons, and then they like wipe the slate clean on your rank, and you start.
So how it's been working for League of Legends is there's 2 splits. In one season, at least in competitive, there's 2 splits. There's this the winter. Sorry, there's the spring split and then the summer split.
Mhm.
Then after the summer split for competitive is Worlds, and then the Worlds Championship happens, and then after Worlds becomes preseason. That's when the big patch happens for the beginning of the new season. And usually the beginning of the season happens sometime in the fall. I forget exactly which month, but it's like September,
Like the
October
late-
region.
new season? No, it usually starts in like November
November. Oh, okay.
when the end of the normal season, and then they go into preseason. Then the new season starts in like early January.
So
Yeah, so we're in like we're still in like maybe the first month of the ranked season for this year.
okay, so there's the seasons are on a yearly standpoint. They're released each patches. What's like I've been reading up on this. Like grand finals peaked at 11 million viewers for LCS. Is it? And these games are free, right? Both these games are free.
Yeah.
Like,
But
Yes.
Dota 2's free. They use a system of like microtransactions, whereas like, oh, you want cosmetics, you can pay for it.
But yeah,
And
but
then-
you just, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Dota 2 for its big like national tournament stuff things. They have these things called compendiums you can buy, and it's like a portion of what you pay for the compendium goes to the prize pool, and then you can earn rewards through doing stuff in the compendium, and it's like this whole involved thing to give you like an overarching goal sort of when playing the game. It's evolved a lot since when it was first introduced, but it's like $10 at least. At least that's what I remember. It was $10, and then you get it, and it's like, $250 of that goes to the prize pool. So, and that was like the second or third international. So
Yeah, I remember there was one.
Yeah. Dota's
one
first international was in 2012 when the game was still in beta, and it was really big at the time because it was the first tournament to have a prize pool of $1 million. It was sponsored by
Jeez.
Valve, so it was like, yeah, Valve wanted to push this really hard, so they made a prize pool of $1 million, and the game was like in beta, and there are heroes that people were just not allowed to pick because they just weren't ready yet. Then they weren't like tuned enough, so like it was really like rough going like into it, but I think it was 16. They brought 16 teams from around the world for it, and that is when was it Navi team? The Navi team. They're like an European team. They won that international, and that's kind of their claim to fame. There's this guy on the team named Dendi, and he's kind of like, I don't know if he still is, but he's probably one of the most popular Dota players just because he's like really enjoyable guy, and he plays some really fun stuff. There's this one hero called Pudge, which is fun, and he plays it really well. It's not like a good hero, but he plays it so well. It's kind of like the what do you call it? The flex pick, I guess. So it's like that's sort of like established his claim to fame, and as they've gone on, the prize pools have gone up, especially thanks to the compendium. I'm just gonna
So
so
while I look that up, so basically these free games, they attract a lot of viewers. It seem like they're highly skill based games, and their teamwork's important. Is that what draws people to watch these games, to watch these players? Because you're looking at an over the top style game, like you're just basically clicking a lot, like I am with my mouse right now.
Well, a lot of people who watch they know what's going on, so it's very like easy for them to sort of interpret what's happening. I'm trying to find a list of like what the prize pool was over the years. I can't find like a list of all the past years, but the
I
prize
remember
pool
one like 2 years ago, maybe 3. It was like $10 million for Dota.
the prize pool for
10 million?
Yeah,
prize
I know, most
pool-
of them
Yeah,
are
prize
wait,
pools
hold
for
on, hold on.
Dota are ridiculous.
Yeah, hold
'cause
on.
most of
So
it's crowdfunded.
the last international, which was August 20th in 2018, the prize pool was $25 million, and the winning team got 11 million.
What the hell?
And that's but yeah. So what they do is they split it across all the teams. So if you get into the international, you get something. So like the 17th and 18th place, they both got 63,000.
What?
And as you get a higher place, you get more and more. So the first time a team earned $1 million for this was sixth place is the first point where you break $1 million. You get 1,144,000 for sixth place, and then that builds up, and then second place gets 4 million. First place gets 11 million. And so that was last year's. So this year might be more. They always hold their tournaments in the fall. I remember like 2013, it was around 3 million or 4 million or something, and then it got up to a bit higher than that. But yeah, they get pretty crazy. The international. If you win an international, you're basically set. Because remember, it's 5 people on the team. This isn't 11 million for 5 people. This is 11 million
Per person?
No, this is 11 million to be split amongst the 5
okay,
people. It's
okay.
not. It's
Not
not
only
11 million
that-
per person.
No,
that,
55
some
million to the team. No.
No,
Some
no.
goes to the org too.
Yeah, and then there's
yeah.
like this. There's like the organization because they run for a team. It's like a professionally run team that has sponsored everything, so they get a paycheck anyway. But yeah, so it's not like each player gets 11 million, but still, after all the deductions are made, you get quite a lot of money if you win. Then again, if you win, you're the best 5 people in the world of a game that has over like however many million players. I don't know off the top of my head.
Fuck the world first race. Fuck Fortnite and fuck Impact. I'm gonna play Dota and League of Legends.
No, but yeah, the reason it's Dota is so like enriched is because Valve like pushes for it, and Valve, they make TF2, if you know that, they made Half-Life, they made Portal, they run
Half-Life 3
Steam, so literally, yeah, they can put as much money into it as they want.
Basically, a gift
what
of
are
Mr.
the League of-
Krabs.
Yeah, what are the League of Legends tournaments
So
like?
the
I actually don't
pools
know.
are okay.
Yeah, the
so how they
pools
do-
are much smaller.
Yeah, because it's not really crowdfunded as much. They recently started doing that 2-3 years ago, but like some of the money actually goes to charity. Because they recently started doing that.
Woo!
Yeah, so they don't focus on huge prize pools for their tournaments. They focus more. As they were talking a couple of years ago, as the NA League franchised. I think that was 2 seasons ago, maybe. They said that they talked 1 season ago. Yeah, so they talked about how they wanted to create an ecosystem rather than just a series of tournaments, which is how it was before the league system was established. And so they focused a lot more on making sure that the players could have salaries that are really high rather than just the few people that could win the international, say, each of them then gets $2 million, something like that. I looked it up, and the starting salary for people in North America that are playing in LCS, which is the league, is above $300,000. And on the upper end, there's players with $1 million salaries. That's just an NA, and NA notoriously has really high salaries. The only other, the other major regions like Europe, Korea, and China kind of reach that high, but the only other region that has salaries that high is maybe China.
Yeah,
So the League of Legends focuses way more on salaries than prize pools.
Yeah, I don't know what the salaries are like for Dota 2. I found the list of international. So the first 2 internationals was just $1 million for the winning team. Then it was 1.4, then 5 million, then 6, then 9, then 10, then 11 for the winning team. And then remember, there's like several million going to the other teams too. So before 2016, what they did was just every fall they'd have an international tournament where all the teams from all over the world come, and it's the top 16 teams. Generally, they got invited, but there were like regional qualifiers. I believe, when did this happen? Yeah, for 2015 they had regional qualifiers. So like the last 4 slots were filled in by these qualifiers from outside people who wanted to get a chance to win. And yeah, so, and then they did the same thing in 2016, and actually one of the regional qualifiers won that international. They were Wings Gaming. They're a Chinese team.
Yeah. Did they beat Cloud9? I think
They beat Evil Geniuses and Digital Chaos, which is like the Dota Cinema. Dota Cinema is like a YouTube channel. They're the Dota Cinema team. They're not that good. But and then they started this new thing in 2017. But these, I think it was 2017 they started this. It was either 2017 or 2016. They started these things called majors, and so majors basically filled up the time in between the international. So now there were 3 other tournaments in the like winter, spring, and summer leading up to the international. And if you won one of those and you got a spot at the international, I think it was 2017 this was added. And so, yeah, the winner of the regional qualifier and the runner-up got invited, and then in some cases, the third place got invited for some of the regional qualifiers. And then there were a lot of direct invitations. There were 6 teams that were directly invited, and then, let's see, 3, 6, 9, and then 12 teams that won their way into the tournament. And that's how it's going from now on. They have majors in between the seasons, and then that's sort of like minor tournaments. I don't know what the prize pools are like for that, but
Right.
yeah.
So I posted a meme for you guys in Discord.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah,
So explain this to me, as anyone who joins esports, like starts watching it for the first time, you'll see a buttload of memes about NA being trash.
See, that's starting to change a little bit.
The main
With that-
reason is that like Asian players are generally the best players, and EU players just don't like NA players, so they make fun of the NA players, even though they're just as bad.
Yeah, but
Ours.
there's
Yeah.
a little more. So like this past World Championship of like Europe, it was Fnatic, a well-known org in like most esports, like made it to the finals, and they haven't done that since season 1 of League of Legends.
And they're an NA team?
No, they're European, but it was. And like the best that year, an NA team got to semis was Cloud9, also well-known org in esports. They made it to the semis, which they haven't done since like they haven't done that since
Season 1.
No, season 4. Season 4, because both actually they got the quarters that year because it was it was both Cloud9. Okay, the teams were both Cloud9 and TSM, and they went against Korean teams, and they both lost. And Korea, in its own, like deserves its own like podcast because they were like extremely well known for doing extremely well in most esports. And it's just more or less their culture is just more adapt to esports. Because they're like, if you're an esports side, you're basically like Michael Vick or Tom Brady, like to them, because like you're like the best of the best. Like like
You're a superstar, basically.
Yeah. Nick,
Yeah, the
for
biggest
podcast, you need to find some of the clips of like them welcoming Korean streamers onto stages in Korea. Like people go nuts for them.
I want with this.
And recently, I believe Denmark is also well known for esports, especially more in like CS:GO. Like their team Astralis has won like most of the majors in like the past like year or so, and like they've like really started to like developing more like towards esports because like, hey, this is really starting to get more developed and bigger, and people are really getting into it. It's like, do you know how like if like the team that wins a Super Bowl, they get to go like meet the president or like whatever? Like Astralis got to do that, but in like Denmark. Like, because that's how like more bigger it's starting to get, but like more on the track for like esports. No North American team has actually have won for League of Legends World Championship. Close was Cloud9 last year when they got
Jesus Christ.
it's been like, so season 1 was Fnatic, a European team. Season 2 was Taipei Assassins, a Taiwanese team. Season 3. SKT, known to be the best League of Legends organization in the world, have it known as the best League of Legends player in the world, Faker. The year after, I believe it was Samsung White. Yeah, Samsung White. Then 2 years after that, it was 2 years after it was both SKT. God, am I missing? Who won after those two?
There's two SKT and then Samsung Galaxy.
Oh, yeah, then Samsung Galaxy won 1 year, and then this year
IG
A
won.
phone?
a
Chinese team.
Yeah, a Chinese team actually won, which is the first.
So
Yeah,
I hate to interrupt
so-
you guys.
Well, real quick. So let me just on the Dota side of things for tournaments. To put it this way, NA's only won 1 international, while China's won 3, and EU has won 4.
Okay, so it's a split up between like European and the Asian teams, or I should say
Yeah.
Korean teams.
Oh no, they're Chinese. They're all Chinese.
Oh, they're all Chinese?
Yeah.
Well, back to Koreans for a second. I just saw their introduction, and they were literally brought up on like an elevator, while everyone else just walked out of a backstage door.
Yeah, they go fucking.
They go bananas on this thing.
They are. If you have a favorite sports star, it doesn't matter sport, football, basketball, volleyball,
Football, if you're not American.
And
Fucking-
football.
soccer, whatever
Football,
your
if you're not
favorite.
American.
Think about how you would react to meeting your favorite sports star. That's how these people react to esports. Because that's what they are. They're professional sports players. They are the same quality, same caliber. They just play video games instead. And
I can't imagine their GOAT debates.
Their what debates?
The GOAT debates, like who's the greatest of all time.
Oh, for League
yeah.
of Legends, definitely Faker. Like, there's really not much argument for there. Like,
Yeah, there's like one player in all of history that could maybe challenge him, and that's Uzi, an AD carry from China. But Uzi doesn't have nearly as many titles or anything close to Faker.
For Dota, it really depends on what you're talking about because roles are so much more strict, I'd say.
no,
'Cause-
League of Legends is pretty strict for like roles, dude.
Not really.
I mean, no, I'd
roles,
say,
yes. The champions that go into those roles has changed a lot over the years.
I'd say Dota's like really strict about it because it's basically the carry. There are carry heroes and then there are support heroes, and they do not break those molds. They stay in those molds and they cannot do anything else. So I didn't get to mention like what the Dota system for a game looks like. So generally, and you can break this mold. You put one person in the off lane, which it depends. So there's like one lane that's longer. So if you're Dire, which is on the top of the map, then it's going to be their bottom lane. If you're Radiant, then it's going to be their top lane. You put one person in there, and they're the off lane. And they're generally someone who's going to be survivable and is not going to die. And they're just going to sit there and get XP because you get more XP if you're alone. And then in the opposite lane, again, depending on the side, you'll put your carry. And then if you have one support, you put one support. If you have two, you put two. So yeah, it's not like you can break this mold pretty easily, but the general strategy is that off lanes fight carry. So it's not like a 1v, because like in League of Legends, it's like a 1v1 in the top lane, right? Yeah, that doesn't happen. You don't put one person against one person in Dota. It's like the off lane person is someone who's like has equipment and utility and survivable enough to just sit there and soak the XP, and who doesn't need equipment that you need money for. And then there's one person in the middle lane.
Bro, that sounds just like top lane.
Yeah, that sounds like top lane during the lane swap meta.
Yeah. And then if you have a jungler, then they'll run through the jungle and they can generally do that. Or if you have a second support, you don't have to have a jungler. You can easily have a second support who just roams around the map. If you find some clips, it's like 3 or 4 years ago of like Bounty Hunter was a popular hero who just roam around that. He would not stay in any lane. He would gank constantly across the map. And then you can break this mold too. If you know that they're going to put their valuable carry in the lane, you can draft an aggressive lineup, completely ditch your off lane, put no one in it, and just run 3 people in the lane the carries in and just harass them so they can't get any gold or any XP at all. So you can break the mold for Dota pretty heavily, and because of that, you can't really define who's the best player based on like role. Like you can't say someone's like the best carry, so on. Say you can say someone's the best on a particular hero, but it really just depends on like what the matchup is and how they're using the hero, because if they like some heroes can change quite a bit, but yeah, it depends. And then so there's no one who's like the best player. I'd say they're definitely popular players, but yeah, it really just depends on like what category you're defining for best player in Dota.
Okay, so on topic of like all the because this seems like a great genre to watch to get into esports and stuff like.
Oh yeah,
has great teams, great personalities, and it seems like they've had good championships over the seasons, right?
Yeah, like League of Legends are really, or even Dota is like a pretty good.
Even Dota.
For Dota 2, you need to put in the I think it's TI3, the TI3 Game 5. It's Alliance versus someone else. I don't remember. You need to put in the final game of that. You need to put in the commentary for that. You need to put in the commentary. I think of it's TI4
or that one was like, no one has done that. No one has ever done that in the history of Dota.
That's a pretty popular meme quote. So there's a TI3 Game 5. I'm pretty sure it's TI3. It's the one with Alliance. I'm pretty sure TI3. And then there's another one where there's the Roshan pit. Roshan's basically this big guy. He's the dragon equivalent in League. I think that's what the guy's called. Who's the big guy that you go try to kill and then get fucked?
There's two of them, aren't they? Like Baron and Dragon?
That's okay, it's League of Legends.
In Dota 2, there's only one guy. His name's Roshan. He's a fuck.
Roshan? Is this like a black woman?
Roshan.
No.
I think he lives on the first floor of my apartment.
Yeah, basically. It's ROSEAN.
Hey, I heard you're in this video game. I need to kill this.
Hey, Roshan.
Hey, yo, Roshan, you in this game?
Alright, so Roshan, he sits in a little fucking, like, hole in the middle of the river. He just sits there. He won't leave. If you try to bring him out, he says, fuck yourself, and just walks back in.
Roshan. Oh my god.
You can't, like, see into the pit or anything really easily. Like, there's ways to, like, obviously see into it. The reason he's important is because when he kills him, he drops an item that when the person dies, they are revived with full health and everything when they die.
So they basically have zillion owned for like League of Legends.
Yeah, it's basically just a free life. And so this becomes pivotal in the late game because if your carry dies by accident in the fight, you want them to just come back. It's a 5-second cooldown to come back, and then the item's consumed and you have to get it again. And then after the third time, I believe, he also drops like a thing of cheese, a cheese wedge, and that cheese wedge, you eat it instantly and it just heals a lot.
Yummy.
So here's another thing to look up, Nick. Look up plays of people yoinking the Immortal, because the team that kills Roshan doesn't necessarily get the Immortal. The Immortal drops in the ground, so the enemy team can come in and take it from them.
Oh, it doesn't save it for the... Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so there's like... Look up clips of Storm Spirit stealing it. That's the easiest one to find.
I think the closest thing for that for League is like Rift Herald, but if the team that kills it, they have it, but the other team could possibly deny them having it in a sense.
Yeah, there's the Rift Herald that is only on the map for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so 19 and a half.
19 and a half, yeah. Well, so it can last longer if you're aggroed
Snatching
on
the Aegis is like a huge play. Even if the person dies twice with the Aegis, it doesn't matter. You kept the enemy team from getting the Aegis. So there's one clip. This is where I was getting to. And I think it's TI4. Earthshaker and Ancient Apparition. The entire enemy team's in the pit, and they go use their ults in the pit, and it's like this huge turn moment that basically wins the whole game, and it's awesome. So look up that too for like the whatever we were talking
footage.
About. Yeah,
for
footage.
So there's the Dota games. My two LoL players. What would be like the best like League of Legends?
I've got it for you. That would be was it Season 6 Worlds SKT versus the Rocks Tigers?
Oh yeah.
It's where so Double talked a little bit about how the roles in Dota are a little stringent. They don't move around a lot. So in League of Legends, this can happen a lot where if the balance of a champion shifts one way, sometimes it can shift lanes, shift roles, and then it completely like changes the meta around it because it's such a disgusting pick. It's so good. And the thing that happened in that best of 5, it was semifinals in the World Championship. It was it was a misfortune, which is typically a DPS champion or a attack damage carry. It was moved to the support role as a specific counter to another mage that is in the support role. And the one random pick that showed up at the semifinals of the World Championship changed the rest of the tournament and the rest of the meta until preseason and into the next season. And so the that pick alone made the whole series so hype because it's something no one in the entire world had even thought of picking Misfortune support, and it happened in the battle of the two Korean giants and the two teams that everyone thought was going to win the World Championship. Even though they met in the semifinals, it was basically thought of as the finals of the Season 6 World Championship.
And were these like juggernauts really like rivals as well? Like
yeah, like I think SKT finished second that year and Rox finished first, or vice versa. And
I can look that up.
I don't remember for sure. I didn't really watch much LCK that year, and it was just a really hyped game. And then it's like,
yeah, they were basically the undisputed two best teams in the world. Yeah, Rox Tigers finished first in the Korean League, and SKT finished second.
Yeah.
So you were talking about that, reminded me about the pick ban system in these games and how they work.
Oh yeah, we forgot about that. We kind of scratched over that.
So generally, there's different game modes in each game.
Oh, that's
So like in Dota 2, there's stuff like all random where everyone's given a random hero, or single draft where you get 3 heroes to choose from, and you have to choose one of the 3, or stuff like that. So, but the competitive scene uses the competitive all pick, which is basically each team. So at the start, each team gets 2 bans, then they get 2 picks, then they get 2 more bans, then they get 2 more picks, then they get 1 ban each, then they get 1 pick. And then the order they go in depends on who's decided they wanted to pick and ban first, and which side, Radiant or Dire, the team's on, because it actually matters which side you're on. This small advantage. But
League of Legends has something kind of like that, but it changed. So at first, it was just like 3 bans on both sides, where like one person, whoever the first pick was, got to ban 3 champions, and after that, it evolved to like where it was 5 bans, but everyone got to ban one person, but each side does not see their bans until afterwards.
Huh, that's interesting.
Well, that's in solo queue. It's a little bit different in competitive.
For competitive, it's like it's
completely different.
Yeah, so for competitive, it's like you banned. All right, so it's a back and forth ban. So you ban a person, they ban 3 times. So, and depending on the side, so if you're on blue side, you pick 1 champion first. If you're on red side, you pick 2 champions first. Then it goes to you pick 2 champions for blue side, then 1 champion on red side, and they get to ban 2 more heroes for the last pick.
So
there's basically 2 phases for it. In the first phase, both teams are going to ban 3 champions and then pick 3 champions, and it kind of goes back and forth. Then after both teams has 3, and each team gets 2 more bans, and then they pick their last 2 champions.
Yeah, and then so the pick ban system, I'm sure it's like this in League of Legends too. But basically, in tournament settings, it creates a system where there's like 1 or 2 heroes that are literally always banned.
Oh yeah,
every game.
Yep.
Because they are just so strong that neither team wants to play against them. So one team always bans a hero. Like generally, it's whoever has the second pick, because if they are the first pick, then they'll not want to ban it in case they can pick them up. But generally, like in season, what was it? I think it was. Dota doesn't really have seasons. I mean, it might now, but not when I played. For TI3, the hero was Io, which is like a support hero. It was just such a strong support hero that it was literally banned every game. And then Batrider was another one. He was like a support offlaner, sort of. And it's legal. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, it's fine. It's just their abilities were so strong, and then this comes back to the balance thing where. It's the flip the table strategy where Ice Frog never actually balances anything. He just flips the table and asks you to put all the pieces back and find what's good.
Yeah, for League of Legends, the best champion I could think of was Season 4, Season 3 Kassadin, where
I didn't even play the game during Season 3 and 4, but I still hear tales.
Yeah. So Kassadin was this champion that was like kind of bad for like the first 6 levels, The second he hit level 6, you had a 90% chance of winning that game. Like, that
Yeah,
is how
his win rate was insane.
Like, he was literally permabanned all of season 4 and all, like, most of, like, late season 3 until Riot nerfed him. Then they just completely reworked him. Or not completely reworked him, they just, like, changed a lot of stuff in this kit. And he was just straight up oppressive. Like,
What was
because
his
basically what the champion does is that his ultimate, his really strong ability, basically gives him this free short range teleport that does damage, and it was just so strong and so powerful.
Yeah, the champion is supposed to scale up over time. Like level 6 when you first get your ultimate, it's a reasonably long cooldown for his little teleport image. And then as you scale up, once you hit level 16 and you have your max rank ult, you're supposed to be just this monster late game. The problem back then was that he wasn't weak enough early, so he was just a monster the entire game.
He was weak until level 6,
yeah.
basically.
And then after that, you lose the game.
Yeah.
Alright.
The only there's a couple other instances of that where I think it was season 6 Worlds. There was an AD carry Callista that was 100% banned.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the entire World Championship tournament, it was not.
There are definitely some heroes like that are just outright banned.
Jesus.
And recently in the first 4 weeks of the split that's happening right now, there's a champion Cassiopeia that was permabanned, and she was just recently nerfed in the last patch. Maybe it was 2 patches ago, and then she's like perma-picked now, but she's no longer so good that she's perma-banned.
Yeah, there was like also in this more recent pack, like Lucian Ezreal. Like those are like the 2 best like AD carries, attack damage carries that were just extremely strong.
So basically, there are heroes that are just so good that
they just warp the entire meta around them.
Yeah,
Dota's definitely had heroes that do that, but it's not like one hero. It's generally like has to be at least 3 heroes. So to put it in perspective, right now, I'm looking at win rates. The highest win rate for this past week is 56%, and the lowest is 40%. So heroes generally bounce around that range, and then of all time, the highest win rate of all time is just 57%, which is like not even worth talking about.
There's like one champion that just had like a 70% win rate. Who was like just super strong.
Just some heroes. Yeah, some heroes just like they're really strong, but there's no hero that like if a hero has a 60% win rate, that's huge in Dota. They don't like 70% means that Ice Frog really fucked up somewhere and needs to like change it immediately. I don't think a hero's ever passed like 75 win rate because there's just like because team play is so important that like one hero just can't outright win the game for the team just by being picked. There are definitely some heroes that can just completely curb stomp the enemy team on their own with the right loadout, but it's generally very item dependent. So I don't know how it is in League. But in Dota, the way carries work is carries generally have abilities that on their own are really trash. Like, they cannot 1v1 a support with these abilities. But when they get the items to support them, then they go off the wall. So, like, for example, one of these heroes is Phantom Assassin. Phantom Assassin... she has 4 abilities. Her first one, she throws a dagger. It deals damage and slows. Her second one is a blink. She blinks to a unit and gets attack speed after she.
Is Katarina?
I don't know. Her
throws
third
daggers,
ability,
teleports to them.
Her third ability is a passive, which increases her evasion. So if an enemy auto attacks her, there's a 50% chance they just don't hit them. And it's been changed around a shitload. Right now, she can go invisible with it for some amount of seconds.
So
she goes invisible until she's near an enemy unit. It's been changed around a lot. It used to be that she wouldn't show up on the mini map when they were near her, and then it was changed to she wouldn't show up on the mini map when no one was near her, and now it's this. And then her ult is another passive, which just gives her critical chance and damage on critical hits. So alone, she's really shit. Also, her ult applies to her first ability, her dagger, which does pure damage, which isn't negated by armor. And so she's really shit on her own. But when she gets items to support her, she can literally two-shot the entire team. Like not two-shot each person, two-shot the entire team. And
in like a cleave damage type.
Yeah, so it's like a cleave item, and then there's some heroes that have cleave built in.
Holy
and
fuck!
So,
Akali right now has a 44% win rate.
Yeah.
So there's just like the way carries are designed is that basically they're really shit early game and have to be babysat by their supports. But once they get a couple good items, they curb stomp the enemy team, and that's the way carries are sort of.
It also has a 61% ban ratio.
Yeah, it's kind of carries are kind of the same way in League of Legends, where typically there's almost always two carries in a game. There's the AD carry, which is champion that throws missiles and builds a lot of attack speed and physical damage and crit to multiply their damage.
It's usually like a ranged person.
Yeah, that's another thing that really interests me with League. You have attack damage carries, and then you have like ability damage or like
EP carries.
Yeah, so those are usually mid lane, where they're champions that do a lot of damage with abilities rather than auto attacks. And there's a lot of variance in terms of what a carry is. There's a lot of mages that are only for early game. There's a lot of mages that are only for late game, mid game.
Yeah, Dota 2 kinda has the same thing ish, where generally the mid laner is someone who casts a lot of spells, and the auto attacker goes into like the far lane, but like it's not strict like that. The main reason is because this is another mechanic in Dota. There's a river that goes through the middle of the map.
It's same for League. League is based off Dota.
But in the river spawn runes. There's 2 runes that spawn on either side of the river, and there's an item called a bottle. The bottle has 3 charges. You use it, it restores some health and mana. It's quite a lot early game. If you get a rune, you get all 3 charges of your bottle back, and also can use the rune whenever you want. And the runes generally have useful effects like moving at max movement speed, being invisible, instantly healing the full. Well, not instantly, but like a lot of regeneration, creating illusions of yourself, etc. So the reason like a spell damage usually gets put in the mid lane is because you want them to cast a lot of spells because they get their mana back with the bottle. So that's Dota's reasoning. I don't know what's the case with League.
Well, League, the meta for League kind of developed directly season 1, where it wasn't the layout of champions that I talked about at the very beginning. How many people go to each lane wasn't defined. As the seasons have gone on, it's defined a lot more. But it's the case where the person who's mid lane typically is a lot more. What's the word?
Oh god, I just realized. Okay, so real quick, I just realized that Dota 2 also introduced talents, which at level 10, 15, 20, and 25, you get to pick talents which drastically change how your character acts. So like at level 10 for PA, for Phantom Assassin, you just can choose 15 damage or 150 health. But then at level 25, you can choose like triple strike. Basically, your Q hits 3 times, or you get more crit chance on your ult. So god, that's another thing I forgot they added. So there's even more on that. Anyway, back to what you're saying. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. So, yeah, the word I was looking for was vulnerable. Usually the person that's in the mid lane are champions that are usually vulnerable, and so they want the shortest lane or the shortest distance between their tower where they're safe under and where the minions are going to hit each other in the middle of the lane. Because champions like Lulu and Talia, they're short range, medium range mages that can't go very far. So you don't want to put them in top lane, because they're going to get destroyed by the jungler. He can just keep coming top and killing them over and over again because they are too far away from their turret. So you put short.
Generally gank and stuff.
Yeah, the jungler is just someone that farms all of the jungle camps that are around the map, and they go to the lanes, to try and gank them. They run into a lane and try to kill the other person because it's a 2v1 if you do that.
Yeah, generally, at least from my experience, junglers in Dota, they don't do that. They just sit in the jungle and they become a second carry basically by farming so much. Like,
you kind of have like farm heavy junglers that just
Nick, look up some clips of Nature's Prophet. That's all I need to say. Just look up some clips of Nature's Prophet. Look up some clips of Admiral Bulldog. nature swap it.
Yeah, the different roles of who's like heavy carries and who's farming heavy, all of that changes so much over time for League of Legends. There's times where there's hyper carries in the mid lane, there's times where there's bruisers in the mid lane, there's tanks in the mid lane,
It
or
just sort of
there's
depends on, like,
tanks in the
who's good.
jungle, or hyper carries in the jungle, or there's 80 carries bot, or there's mages bot. Everything changes over time because it's such a versatile game. And the meta isn't held together by Riot Games, the company that owns it and makes all the patches. They kind of just change champions so that they're good and they're bad, and then the meta kind of falls where it is. And sometimes it does really weird things.
How
So
does
how-
ranking work?
I remember there's one thing we kind of, before we like touched on it, there's kind of a class that we kind of forgot. That is assassins and like tanks.
Oh.
Because assassins, okay, so assassins usually, like most of the time, either go like mid or top usually, and assassins are kind of like mages, but kinda
Probably like 90% mid though.
yeah, they're kind of like mages, but not really. Where they could be
Mages
physical
with
or they could be
physical
magic.
Or-
Where
They're more like really heavy.
do they do a lot of burst
like
damage?
casters? Yeah, casters that do burst damage rather than sustain damage.
yeah, their main job is to, like, usually go after like the squishiest. And by squishy, I mean like the lowest health, the easiest to kill target, and try to kill them as fast as they possibly can. And then you have tanks who are basically your front line, who are there to absorb a lot of damage and usually have a lot of CC, known as crowd control, in their kit to like really their job is not really to do damage. It's more to really disrupt the other team, like move them around in positions they don't want to be in, and like really
And to enable your carries to do damage.
oh yeah, and to help your carries to do more damage.
So,
Eh.
I know we're getting to mechanics and all that stuff. And we're also getting a little bit low on time, as I'm judging
Oh,
from our
Yeah, it's almost
recording
6.
process. So let me ask you guys one quick thing. But I know we're going to skip over ranking and stuff. To summarize it, is it the same as like playing like a rank FPS like Overwatch? Like you do have set amount of matches, and based on your wins and losses, you're given a rating?
So for Dota, it's changed slightly over the years. So when I played, it's this thing called MMR, matchmaking rating.
Oh
Basically,
no!
It just says
Yeah.
He has that, but it's more
your
hidden.
how good are you number. No, for Dota 2, they literally just put that number in front of you and says that this is how good you are. Get good. So generally, the highest was like, well, not the highest, but the high was like 5 or 6K. The average was like 3 to 4K. You were about above average if you were 4K. You were a little below average if you're 3K. If you're below 3K, you probably didn't know how to play the game well. Just
I think
yeah. So what happened is you'd play 10 games and then it calibrate based on a combination of things like wins, losses, and how well you did. And then you lose MMR by losing a game and gain MMR by winning a game. And generally it's about the same amount. That was back then. Since then, they've added tiers, which are how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's like 8 tiers. There's Herald, Guardian, Crusader, Archon, Legend, Ancient, Divine, and then Immortal. And these basically put the MMR category. They're the same as the MMR. They still have an MMR attached, or at least we can guess there's an MMR.
So it's
attached to them.
divided.
So yeah, so like Crusader, the lowest tier Crusader is about 1680 MMR, and the highest tier is about 2400. And then Archon's like 2520, which is the tier above Crusader. It's about 2520 up to 3240. And so
Okay.
it's and
I get
it's
it.
not as like direct, because it used to be it just flat out gave you a number and you would know if you were above or below 4K or whatever, and you'd know how, and you generally, it wouldn't show you the other players' MMR until after the end of the game, but like you generally got placed with people around at least 500 MMR of you.
Okay.
It tried to make the teams even on their average, and I think that it still does that. It will display the average MMR of the teams against each other to show that it's like an even quote unquote fight.
I think MMR is a discussion we're too late to get
It's
into.
it's really complicated. Basically, it is the number that shows how good you are, and you want it to be higher. And if you are below a certain amount, people will laugh at you and call you trash. Imagine 3K MMR being equivalent to platinum in Overwatch.
Yeah, League of Legends has MMR as well, but it's hidden kind of. You have to use websites to try and figure out what your MMR is. The way that they show your rank is just using a rank tier. So in the there's bronze, silver, gold. I'm gonna
rank.
Yeah. So they changed it. They added 2 tiers this latest season, but I'm gonna ignore them because I don't know. It's just easiest across every single game. There's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and then above diamond there's some like master.
Yeah, masters and
challenger. Yeah, master challenger. There's some equivalents in other games. So before this season, in each tier there was 5 subdivisions, and within those subdivisions you had to try and win and gain LP, which I think stands for league points.
Yeah, league points.
And you had to try and get to 100 LP. Usually you'd get about 25 for a win.
No, it's more like 20 for a win.
Oh, sorry, maybe my MMR is just too good. Okay, so you get about 20 for a win. So you have to win like if you were gonna only win games, win 5 or 6 games, and then you go into promos to try and go up a division from silver 2 to silver 1, and then once you go from silver 1 to gold 5, you'd have to win a best of 5. You'd have to win 3 games out of 5. Until recently, where they added a division below bronze and they added a division above masters, and they lowered the number of subdivisions from 5 to 4. So no one really understands what the distribution of people is right now, because it's still, the whole matchmaking system is pretty screwed up right now. All of everyone's MMRs are screwed up. Everyone at the top level of the game that streams is complaining about it.
Because you have someone that's like might be like D1 in a Grandmaster games or Challenger game, and you have someone that's in silver playing against someone that's in like plat.
Yeah, there's plat players that are in diamond and masters, and they've never been there because they don't deserve to be there, but they're there because the ranking system is so messed up right now.
Oh, I guess I'll just be here then. Or was it? I guess I'll die now. It's like, oh, I guess
I'll die now.
And if you're like iron, and I don't know why they added iron.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really bad because you honestly have to be really bad to get iron.
It's achievement for all those people who
have to try to be iron.
There are people in like Overwatch who purposely tried to get the lowest MMR possible.
I was about to bring that story up and ask like if you guys read that story.
Yeah, there's a guy in Overwatch who got literally 1 SR.
For anyone listening to this on YouTube or SoundCloud, I encourage you guys to look up that story. The guy who tried to get a 0 rating in Overwatch. It is a fantastic.
I think he got banned eventually, just because he's essentially throwing all the games.
I don't think he did.
No. He's not throwing games per se.
I think one guy. I know one guy did eventually get a ban.
I'll link in the description of both of the audio and videos. But as we near the end of this podcast, of a very fantastic podcast, I have one final thing to ask to you guys. What is probably your favorite experience either watching or playing League of Legends or Dota 2?
See, you think playing Dota is a good experience. That's
and let's call it there.
No one enjoys Nick. No one enjoys playing MOBAs. Okay, that's no one likes it. It's just fun when you win. You get as much of an adrenaline.
Yeah, we really didn't touch much on the communities either about them, because they can usually in MOBAs like League of Legends they can be fairly toxic, but that's usually just it's usually 1 or 2 bad apples you get every other game. But most of the time the community is usually fairly open and try to want to get good, and you have those games where you get super tilted, whatever, but you just have to get over your tilt.
I'd say
better.
Though, if I did have to choose a favorite, there was one time I was playing with I think it was 4 other people. I just know one guy's name was Pinzor. I played with him a lot. I don't know what happened to him, but oh yeah, I remember it happened. Never mind, that's a long story. I was playing this hero called Axe, and this was before they nerfed him by fixing him. So Axe as a hero, he has 2 main abilities, or 3 main abilities that are important here. His first ability, his Q, is a call that's like a small AoE around him that makes everyone around him attack him. His third ability is a passive called Helix Spin. When someone attacks him, is a chance to trigger it, which does like a certain amount of damage. I forget how much it is, but it does a certain amount of damage around him in an AoE, and it's a percentage chance for it to trigger. So they fixed this to make it so that the more times in a row you're hit and it doesn't proc, the more likely it is to proc, and then the more times in a row you're hit and it procs, the less likely it is to proc. So basically, it should average out to a certain amount, which it was a nerf to the hero. It made him worse. But basically, attacking him makes him spin, and he has an ability that makes people attack him. And his final ability, his ultimate, the dunk, as I like to call it, you take your big ass axe and you jump in the air and you Michael Jordan, whatever his name is. You Michael Jordan dunk your axe into their face. So if they have to, if they are, so what it actually does, it does damage if you just use it normally. But if they are below a certain threshold, a health level, like a certain amount of health,
it's an execute basically.
Yeah, based on their health.
Literally, Darius.
Based on the level.
Darius.
Well, I'm not done. If based on their level, if they're below a certain amount of health, it instantly kills them, and it instantly refreshes the cooldown, so you can use it. Yeah. So my favorite moment was there were 4 people pushing mid lane. There was a huge wave of creeps. One guy used his ult, which summons like a big guy. I had an item called the Blink Dagger. It's basically Flash, but on a 12-second cooldown. Except you can't use it if you've been hit within 3 seconds. But yeah, think Flash, but on a 12-second cooldown. And it's an item. I had that. I blink into them. Like, everyone on the team's telling me, hey, don't bother defending. Don't go in, because they had all just died. I go in. I blink. I call. I spin. I dunk. I get 4 kills. Easy clap. Best moment I've ever had.
And then
So
you
you
uninstall
literally
the
just
game.
described a League of Legends character named Darius.
He has an axe where he has an ability where he spins his axe and he heals off of it, and then his ultimate is he jumps up in the air, and if he has max stacks on someone, it does like bonus
Max
true
bleed.
damage, and max bleed on them, then it does bonus true damage, I think, and it's an execute, and if he kills someone with it, then he gets bonus AD and it resets his ult.
And he actually has he has a skin called Dunk Master Darius.
Yeah, it's literally him where instead of an axe, he has a basketball pole.
Basketball hoop, and he has an actual like basketball, and so when he ults people, he literally just dunks them.
That's
Like-
great.
Does he scream out LeBron James when he gets a kill?
Yeah, no, the skins don't do too much crazy things like that in Dota. They're generally more reserved and like thematic. At least there's nothing like, oh, here's a character in a basketball skin. It's generally like at least fantasy thing. But there are some pretty neat items because it's not skin, it's items. So you can swap like a cape from one skin with like a shoulder piece from another, etc. But anyway, getting off topic. What are your guys' favorite moments?
You can go first, Crow.
I can't really think of a best moment. I think my best time playing this game was when I first started playing, towards the end of season 5. It was my freshman year of college. This is when I was going to college in California, and a group of guys in my dorm, I started playing League of Legends like right at the time, and we had a 5-man, and we played in some tournaments that were held by the university. And I played something like probably 6 or 7 hours a day for like months at a time, because I was trying to catch up to all these guys that were good at the game. But my time playing with those 4 other guys were some of like the best times, like playing any game ever. Because the part of League of Legends that's fun is when you get to play with other people. So me and Fluffy play all the time. It's a lot more fun when you're playing with people that you can joke around with and flame just for fun, you know. It's a lot more fun to flame people, you know,
Shitty mid-laner.
for it.
Sounds like my race.
Never missing me.
Hey, as you should know, mobile communities are hella toxic. So
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
For me, I probably have 2 moments. One like competitive, one's more personal. It was, I think, when I watched my favorite team ever, and everyone knows this in our esports club. I am the resident TSM fanboy. Like they're
TSM's
known,
on in an hour. Let's cut this short.
yeah. Now TSM is known to be one of the best North American League teams, like fairly consistent, and like watching their
Lol.
games. Like I was watching them in season 4, and like I was just always hyped for a TSM game. Like TSM. Like they have the most influential chant ever, and I just love their favorite word. And so, game wise, I think I can't really think. Oh, wait, there's 2 games. One was with a bunch of friends. Where one of my friends, this was back I think like season 6, season 5. They introduced an item called Devour, where basically when you like kill a certain amount of jungle camps, you basically get the auto attack a second time every auto. So my friend, he played this one champion called Scion.
Wait, what?
He went Devour Scion, and we won basically the first 30 minutes of the game and then lost, even
Wait,
though he
what?
carried us with the most shittiest build, and we almost won. And then, I think one of my best moments was my first pentakill ever. So pentakill is basically when you basically just kill the entire team. It was a ranked game. We were basically like down the entire game. I was playing an AD carry called Tristana, and she's like one of the best hyper carries in the game. And so literally like my whole team was like, okay, we have to keep our Tristana alive because we were so down. I was the only one that was like pseudo ahead. And so there was just one team fight in the middle. I was just like in the zone, just like right clicking my
Auto
ass
zone?
off. Yeah, like I was just right clicking, just trying to like do my best. And then I just double kill, triple kill, quadra kill. I was like, wait, what, Penta? And like the last champion was running away. It's like, no, give me the Penta, give me the Penta. My support, Morgana. She has an ability where she throws out this skill shot that just stops him from moving. She hit it max range, and I got my pentakill, and we won the game.
That's awesome. That's what an incredible story.
Well, I'll say for a little bit of context on that first story, Scion Devour in the jungle. Scion is a tank. He's one of the biggest tanks in the game. He's the best tank in the game currently, but he is not supposed to be a jungler, not supposed to be a champion that builds on hit, attack damage, attack speed. There's a reason he lost the game after carrying. He didn't.
Pull up a video of like Scion and like just a picture of him. Like he's just big undead guy that just has this giant axe, and his ultimate is just Thomas the Tank Engine on crack.
So I have to ask about what was that guy Darius or whatever, the dunk guy?
Yes. Oh, you
Yeah.
know, like
Was he
bring up
ever
like
good?
if you want to, all right.
Well, no, wait, hold on.
If you want to like a
Season 5 balls.
season 5 balls, and the world championship, it was group stages. There was a caster. He says, "Balls is Diamond 5 Omega lol." Literally the next day he gets a pentakill on stage.
Yeah, there's a
Nice.
top laner for Cloud9 that was hard stuck in Diamond 5, which is trash tier for a professional player.
In Korea though.
Yeah.
It was in Korea, so
Yeah,
Right,
and then in the World Championship, then he got a pentakill on Darius, who was noticeably broken at the time, but
oh yeah, that's when you.
still,
That's when
it was a sick.
So
It was
yeah,
probably one of
the,
the hype moments of that
the
world.
reason I ask is because so 6.83 was the meta where Axe was really good, and everyone picked him, and then he got nerfed in 6.84. Before 6.83 and like 6.82 and 6.81, that's kind of how you tell what season of Dota it is. It's the patch number. I played Axe a lot, and I would
For sure.
average at least 30 to 40 kills a game. Like if I didn't get 40 kills a game, I was having a bad game with Axe because he was so unstoppable with Blink Dagger and his ultimate, and it was insane playing with him. And just like thinking about it brings back so many good memories of just blinking in on random unsuspecting people, calling them, and then dunking them before they even get control. Because the call that makes them auto attack also means they can't move around or do anything while they're doing it. So you get to just free do whatever you want to them and then just dunk on them, and it's bringing out so many memories thinking about that.
I'm gonna find you one day playing Dota 2. I'm gonna tell you it's raid night. You're like, no, I have one more game.
No. I stopped playing Dota 2 for a reason. I'm done with it.
Well, with that, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. To my 3 amazing guests, thank you
Thanks
guys
for listening, you fucks. Give Nick a good grade.
Oh god.
He doesn't deserve it, but I'm telling you to, so you should.
I was having such a good ending, then you ruined it. To my other two guests.
Anything.
Didn't you read the notes?
Didn't you read the notes? I'm a fuck. There's gonna be swearing. I'm gonna call everyone your classmate hot, and everyone your classmate's hot. Come get some. My number is 555-5555. Hit me up.
Don't you mean 777-777?
Nick, you're ruining it. You're ruining it like you ruined our marriage.
Good, I was done with you anyway.
Alright, show's over. Get out.
You guys have a good rest of your day. If it's not today, you have a good rest of your night. If it's not the night,
I'm gonna
have a good rest of your
pass
morning.
out after getting groceries. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Anyway, to everyone else who's listening on YouTube, please feel free to hit subscribe, like the podcast you did, share it around with your friends.
Subscribe to Nick's Twitch.
Not yet.
The notification bell.
Next week, it's going to be a very special week because it will be National Women's History Month. I'll be doing an all-ladies podcast next week, so tune in for that. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud, please feel free to share a link around with your friends. If you're on YouTube, like I said, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to catch me live, I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/NoLimitisNick. Give me a follow over there. We can have a good chat over there. And to wherever you are around the world, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye.